Okay, let's go over our lesson 6 practice problems, which is all about angle measures and different vocab that we just learned about angles and using them to solve equations. So let's jump into number 1 here. It says, find the missing measure. Okay, so on this one, if you notice here, we do have a 90-degree angle, right? This little right angle here. And they tell you this part of it's 65 degrees, so you want to find the missing part. So you're really just doing 90 minus 65 on this one. Here, I can write that out here. Taking 90, subtracting 65, which is going to leave us with the rest of the missing angle, so that'd be 25 degrees. Good, so that would be your x. Okay, on this one, same thing, find the missing measure. Now right here, if you notice, we have two angles right next to each other, and if you look at it, they really form like a straight line, right? If I start here and go all the way over here, they're on a straight line. So we could call these a linear pair, which means these two angles, if they're right next to each other and they form a straight line, they add up to 180 degrees. So the math we would want to do here would be take the whole thing, 180 degrees, and subtract off the 51 degrees. And that would leave us with 129 degrees for x. Good. Okay, number 3, again, find the missing measure. Now, or measures in this one. So they want you to find x, y, and z. Okay, so you have to think of what would be the best one to find first. And I would say maybe find the one right across from it. I think that's got the easiest relationship. If you remember, whenever two lines intersect, two lines cross, the ones across from each other are called vertical angles, and they're equal in measure. So if this is 107 degrees, immediately y is also 107 degrees. So off to the side here, let's say x equals, y equals, and z equals. We'll just write everything over here. So we know y is 107 degrees. Okay, perfect. So now we got to solve for x and z. Well, whatever x is, I know z is going to be the same thing because for the same reason, these are vertical angles and those are going to match each other. So they're going to be the same degree. Okay, so let's maybe look at from here all the way to here, right? If we kind of ignore this bottom part, we have like a straight line with two angles coming off of it, which means those two angles do have to add to 180 because they form a straight line, or we could say they're a linear pair or they're supplementary. Okay, so we would want to do 180 minus this 107, which is going to leave us with 73 degrees. So x is going to equal 73 degrees, right? Which means z also equals 73 degrees. Okay, good. Let's jump into some of these word problems. Number 4. So it says, if the measure of an angle is 13 degrees, find the measure of its supplement. So this is really a vocab lesson here. So you remember, supplementary means the two angles together add to 180. So here we're just going to be doing 180 minus 13. Which will give us 167 degrees. So the supplement to 13 degrees would be 167 degrees because they add up to 180 degrees. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. Okay, so this one says, if the measure of an angle is 38 degrees, find the measure of its complement. So recall what a complement of an angle is. So we know complementary angles are two angles that add to 90 degrees. So we would want to take 90 degrees and subtract off what they give us, which would be 38 degrees to give us the complement of it. Okay, so that's going to give us 52 degrees. So we would say 52 degrees is the complement to 38 degrees because those two added together would give us 90 degrees. All right, let's look at some of these here. Number 6, I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, so it says angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair. Now, if it's helpful for you, you can draw a picture of that. You don't have to, you just have to know the properties of a linear pair. So a linear pair, I would probably draw a straight line, right, linear, and then pair means there's two angles, so maybe just draw another line coming off of that. I didn't mean those to intersect, but oh well. And then you've created two angles right here, and it doesn't matter how you label it. They don't tell us how big the angles are. This is just to get a visual. So it says if the measure of angle 1 is 5x plus 9, let's see, we'll make this angle 1 and this angle 2, and I'll go ahead and label angle 1. They tell us that angle is 5x plus 9 degrees. Okay, and they say angle 2, the measure of angle 2 equals 3x plus 11 degrees. I'll go ahead and label that over here. 3x plus 11 degrees. And it says find the measure of each angle. All right, so we would want to come up with a way to set up an equation, first of all, to solve for x. And the best way we could do that would be use the properties of what you know about a linear pair. Well, I know that the two angles in a linear pair, if you add them together, they have to equal 180. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to start by writing this one down, so 5x plus 9. And I'm going to add to that, and we really don't need the parentheses anymore, but you can put them on there if you want. But I'm going to add to that the other angle, which would be 3x plus 11. So I know those two angles added together has to equal a total of 180 degrees. So that would be the perfect setup to now solve for x. Okay, so let's combine our like terms over here. Let's see, that's going to give me an 8x plus 9 plus 11 is going to give me 20. And that all equals 180. From there, I would subtract the 20 from both sides. So we end up with 8x equals 160. Okay, and then from there, we're going to divide by 8 on both sides. I'm not really showing my work, but you guys have done a lot of solving equations, so hopefully you're following. 160 divided by 8 is going to give us 20. Now be careful. It's so easy to go, boom, final answer, done. But don't box that just yet. It does say find the measure of each angle. We just found the measure of x so far. Now we needed to do that to find the angle, but now we're going to take that value of x and plug it in for our x right here to get angle 2, and then also plug it in right here to get the measure of angle 1. Okay, so I'm going to maybe like move this aside a little bit. Let's do that. And then off to the side here, let's say, let's find the measure of angle 1. I'm going to go ahead and write out 5x plus 9. And now instead of x, I'm going to replace it with my value of x. So that's 5 times 20 plus 9, which that's going to give me 5 times 20 is 100, plus 9 is going to give me 109. So the measure of angle 1 is 109 degrees. I'm going to put that right here. Measure of angle 1 equals 109 degrees. Okay, now if I want to find the measure of angle 2, there's actually two ways you could do this part. For the measure of angle 2, you can take 20 and plug it in for x right there. Do 20 times 3, which would be 60, plus 11, which would be 71, right? Let's go ahead and, that one's easy enough, 71 degrees. Or keep in mind, those angles are supplementary, meaning they add to 180. So once you found this one, you could have just done 180 minus 109. And 180 minus 109 does equal 71. So you could do it either way. Okay, now we've answered the question and we can move on to the next one. Number 7 says, angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. So another little vocab situation here. I'm going to underline that. Vertical angles. So when you see this word vertical angles, you should be thinking of just two intersecting lines. Okay, I'll go ahead and draw the little arrows on them. So we have two intersecting lines and we're creating a set of vertical angles. You could draw them here and here or up and down. Either way, I'll go ahead and draw them right here and right here. Okay, and we'll say the one on the left is angle 1 and the one on the right is angle 2. You know what? I'll put a 1 here and a 2 here. And let's label. Now it says if the measure of angle 1 equals 17x plus 1 degrees, I'll put that over here. 17x plus 1 degrees is that angle, and the measure of angle 2 is this. I'll write it in here. So 20x minus 14 degrees. It wants me to find the measure of angle 2. Now, no matter what it's asking you to find, you do always first have to solve for x. So I'm going to do that first. Okay, so you got to think of a way that you can set up an equation using the things they give you. Now, in this case, keep in mind they are vertical angles, which means they are equal to each other. So the easiest way to do this is to simply set this equal to this. So I'm going to do that off to the side. I'm going to do 17x plus 1 equals 20x minus 14, and that is a perfect setup, and now we solve for x. On this one, I would probably subtract the 17x first from both sides. So minus 17x here and here. They're going to cross out over there, which leaves me with 1 equals, that's going to give me 3x minus 14. And then I'd probably add the 14 to both sides, which I'll skip the work on that one. Obviously, you'll get 15 over here when you add the 1 to it, equals 3x. And then from there, you're just dividing both sides by 3. So I get x equals 5. And careful, that's not our answer. It wants us to ultimately find the measure of angle 2. So if we take that 5 that we got for x, we just need to plug it in for our angle 2. Technically, you could actually plug it in for this one if you want, because angle 1 and angle 2 are equal. So it really doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and write this out. The measure of angle 2 equals, we might as well do the angle 2 one, 20 times 5 minus 14. I already substituted the x in there. Instead of writing x, I wrote 5. Okay, so we do 20 times 5, which we know gives us 100. And then if we subtract 14 from that, we get the measure of angle 2 equals, that's going to give us 86 degrees. Final answer. Okay, number 8 tells us angle K and angle L are complementary angles. So we got to remember, we got some vocab here. We have to remember what that means. Complementary angles mean they add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so again, you could draw a picture of that, or just keep in mind of what that means. They add to 90. Okay, if angle K equals 3x plus 3 degrees and the measure of angle L equals 10x minus 4 degrees, find the measure of each angle. So I'm going to go ahead and not draw a picture on this one because it's a pretty simple setup. If they're complementary, like I said, this plus this has to equal 90 degrees. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to write 3x plus 3 plus the other angle, 10x minus 4, added together has to equal 90, just like that. And then we solve. So let's combine our x's. So that's going to give me 13x. I have 3 minus 4, so that's going to be a negative 1, equals 90. And then I would add the 1 to both sides, so we get 13x equals 91, and then we're dividing both sides by 13. So 91 divided by 13 is going to give me a positive 7. Nice whole number. Okay, let's go back and see what they want us to actually find. Let's see, find the measure of each angle. So we want a measure for angle K and for angle L. All right, so let's do the measure of angle K, which equals 3x plus 3. But you know the drill, we're going to plug in our x, which is 7, right here. Okay, so we're going to do that equals 3 times 7 plus 3. Okay, let's do that math. So 7 times 3 is 21, plus 3 is going to give me 24. So the measure of angle K equals 24 degrees. So there's half our answer. And we also want the measure of angle L, which I think, well, I guess you could do it either way. You could plug the 7 in for x right here. 10 times 7 would be 70 minus 4. That's going to give me 66 degrees. That was easy enough. I was going to say the other thing you could do would be, since you know this one is 24 and they're complementary angles, you could just think what's 90 minus 24 and you get 66 degrees. So either way, you get both your answers there. Okay, we've got just 3 problems left. Let's look at number 9. So now no word problems, just a picture. And actually, I think all of these just say find the value of x. Yeah, so we're just solving for the variables. This one is going to be x and y. That'll be a little bonus one right there. Okay, number 9. Find the value of x. Well, these are vertical angles, which means they are equal to each other, which means I can set them equal and solve. So I'm going to do 6x plus 7 equal to 8x minus 17. Okay, and on this one, I probably would subtract the 6x. I like to keep my x's positive if I can, so I would get 7 equals 2x when you subtract 6 from 8, minus 17. And then from there, I would probably add the 17 to both sides. So adding 17 to 7 over here, that's going to give me 24 equal to 2x. And then dividing both sides by 2, and I'm going to switch it around and say x equals, that's going to give me 12. And on this one, that's it. That's all they wanted you to find was the value of x, and we're done. Don't have to plug it back in. Okay, and same with number 10, just finding the value of x. Now this will be a different setup. These ones are not vertical angles, so we're not going to set them equal, but they are right next to each other on, like making up a line right here. So these are what we call a linear pair, which means they add up to 180 degrees. So I'm going to do this plus this equals 180, and then I've got my equation. 11x minus 15 plus 5x minus 13 all equals 180. Okay, and then we combine our like terms. So we've got 11x plus 5x, that's going to give me 16x. And then we got a negative 15 and a negative 13, which is going to give me, what's that, negative 28. And that all equals 180. And we're just solving for x. So we're going to add 28 to both sides. So we would get 16x equals, what would that be, 208. And then divide both sides by 16. So we get x equals, I bet that's a whole number. Let's see, divided by 16. Yeah, we get 13 for x. And that's it, because we just have to solve for x on this one. Okay, last one, our little bonus problem right here. Okay, so number 11 wants you to find the values of x and y. So there's a lot going on in this picture. You have to decide what kind of equation to set up. Well, you might look at this first off and be like, well, I've got vertical angles here, so can't I set these equal? Technically, yes, you can. You can totally set those equal to each other and then solve. The problem with that, as you might notice, is you're going to have an x variable and a y variable in one equation. And if you just have one equation with two variables, you cannot solve for the variables. It would involve setting up two equations and doing a whole system of equations. So let's see if there's like an easier way to set up an equation here. We'll take a look at maybe this angle and this angle. Now they're not vertical, so they're not equal, but they are a linear pair because they're on a line, which means I can take this and add it to this and set those equal to 180 degrees. And that's going to be better because they both just have x variables in them. So let's start with that. Let's do 10x minus 61 plus x plus 10 and set that all equal to 180. Okay, and now we simplify. We've got 10x plus x to give me 11x, negative 61 plus 10 to give me negative 51, all equal to 180. And then that's a pretty simple equation to solve from there. We're going to add the 51 to both sides. So we get 11x equals, that'd be 231. And then we divide by 11, which I think goes in evenly. That would be 21. Okay, so we've got our x variable, that equals 21. And now we have to find our y variable. Well, since we know what x equals, this does become a bit easier because I can plug this 21 in for x right there for x. And let's see what we would get for this angle, okay? So let's just do it off to the side. That would be 10 times 21 and then minus 61. So what's that going to give us? 10 times 21, well, that's 210, and then subtract 61. That's going to give me 149 degrees right here. Okay, so instead of this little expression, I know that angle actually equals 149 degrees. So do you see what you could do from here maybe? You could actually set this equal to 149 instead of equal to that full expression right there. We know what it equals now. It equals 149. So I'm going to do that off to the side. I'll do this in a different color. So I'm going to take that 18y plus 5 and set that equal to 149. And now I solve for my y variable. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So I'm going to get 18y equals 144. And then dividing by 18, we get a nice whole number. That's going to give me just 8. Y equals 8. And that was a bit of a challenging one. Hopefully you at least tried it. I'll zoom out so you can see the whole sheet here. Good job, y'all. Hopefully this went well, and I'll see you in our next